Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and this is the Week 11 college football betting preview presented by DraftKings. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Collin Wilson, Mike Calabrese, and the one and only Josh Nunn, aka Duck. A lot to get to today. We'll give our first of two best bets in just a moment. We'll talk the marquee matchup of the day between BYU and Texas Tech. We'll build our moneyline parlay, and then we'll bring in Duck to talk a little FCS. Also, make sure you check out at Playbook on Twitter. The Action Network bot really makes everything easy. Just at Playbook. When you see a bet you like, or if you want to build a bet you like, it'll automate your bet slip for you, save you a lot of work. Make sure you check it out and follow at Playbook on Twitter. We'll also have quick slip links in the YouTube chat. You can use those to quickly and easily add our picks to your bet slip if you want to follow along. Gentlemen, before we get started here, some G5 shakeup last night with Memphis going down to Tulane. I'll ask you this. If you had to choose a team to get in just for the competitiveness of the actual game. So let's say it's Georgia playing an FCS school or excuse me, a G5 school. Who do you want to see in that spot? Duck, I'll start with you.
I think JMU would give one of those teams the best game. I think their run game is legitimate. We saw them go to Louisville and control the first 2.5 quarters. They flubbed it up in the second half a little bit, but I think James Madison could put a scare into one of those teams.
I will say they did play Louisville pretty tight early in the season. I mean, the strength of schedule is pretty weak. I'm going to go with South Florida. I just want to see Byron Brown try to run for 250 yards against Georgia. Colin, who do you want to see?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking. South Florida is the team that has the explosives. It's A, already beaten a team like Florida. B, if they were in a better situational spot, probably could have done better against Miami. So they actually have a track record. Plus, they have the EPA advantage against some of these defenses. And I was already thinking about Alabama and Georgia because they would have issues with Brown having 3, 4 weeks rest. USF would be the dangerous one.
Duck, I'm surprised you didn't go San Diego State. Calabrese, where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, it's a boring answer, but I think it has to be South Florida. What they also have at the line of scrimmage, because if you're matching up hypothetically with a Georgia, all these other schools are just going to get pushed around in the trenches, and it kind of, basically makes it too difficult to move the football or to stop anything on the ground. My only concern there is Golish, obviously being 1 foot out the door. He's been linked to like 6 jobs in the last 48 hours. So th those issues, I think, are really difficult to handle as a G5 football fan, including if anyone has a good season, it's like, oh, Danny Scudero is killing it for San Jose State. Which team is he going to play for next year? It's like, this season's not even over yet. Can we pump the brakes and just enjoy what they're doing at the G5 level this fall?
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. Can't even enjoy half the season without those discussions started. All right, let's get started ourselves with our best bets. Colin, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, let's go MIZ. I mean, this is a spot where Texas A&M, I think, is going to struggle, and that's saying something considering I think Texas A&M can win the national title, and I think they have the best offense in the nation. But Missouri has proven time and time, week after week, that their defense is the one that's the gravy train of this team, one of the best in the nation in havoc. They're top five in creating a pass rush, tackles for loss galore, just all over the place. And Missouri, here's the key against Texas A&M. What is it you have to do? First, you have to create small windows for catches. Missouri's fourth in the nation in creating a contested catch. Small windows for Concepcion and Craver. Second, you can't miss tackles. Right now, Missouri is fourth in broken tackles allowed on defense. This is a thing where Craver and Concepcion could catch a pass if the window is big enough and probably not get any extra yards. And that's something that no other defense has been able to do against Missouri. I know that Pabula is not there. I don't think the drop off to Zellers is that big. But I can't get over the fact that Texas A&M is dead last in the country in defensive finishing drives. If that's a term you don't know what it is, every time Missouri crosses the 40-yard line today, they're going to get 6 points. That's what that means. And Texas A&M's got to shore that up. So, or I got to come off this Texas A&M national title thing.
All right, we will. You can cash your tickets. Colin mentioning finishing drives. Maybe we'll get a havoc mention here shortly. Yeah, this comes down to what Zollers can get them. I don't think it's a big drop off throwing the ball. What does Purdue not being there due to the run game? That's my only concern. And Texas A&M should at least be able to block Missouri's defensive line as well as anybody. But I don't mind you. I don't blame you for taking the 7 here. Calabrese, where you going?
I'm gonna go to the Sun Belt, lay the points with Southern Miss laying 4.5 against Arkansas State. Just the matchup isn't great for the Red Wolves because they can't run the ball, and that's how you can move it against USM. Ever since they lost Cross in the opener, they just haven't been able to pop anything on the ground because this Southern Miss pass defense is absolutely elite. They're ninth in pass success rate defense, EPA, and also in terms of their pass rush, and they're top 15 in havoc. And Jalen Raynor, when he's put under pressure, he always puts the ball in harm's way. No quarterback at the G5 level has more turnover-worthy plays this season than Raynor. And then finally, the Southern Miss run game has progressed throughout the season. They're now 51st in line yards, and critically, they're getting Jeffrey Pittman back, who's an explosive runner. Before he went out with injury, his last 3 games and his last 3 starts, I should say, 293 yards on the ground. It's going to give them balance. They're going to be able to get, to 31 points in this game, and I just see Raynor turning it over 2 or 3 times in this one, and that being enough for them to cover the 4.5.
Actually, looking forward to that one. Duck, you're going to one of the ugliest games on the board.
It is really gross, but it's one of my favorite spots of the weekend. Final home game for Oregon State. The defense has been playing incredible since Rob Akey took over. He's a defensive-minded guy who coached at Idaho, Central Michigan, coached the NFL. Sam Houston, 41 points per game surrendered, just gave up 426 rushing yards to Louisiana Tech on 11 yards per carry. Sam Houston's third down and red zone offense is atrocious. Their defensive tackling is really, really bad. Terrible special teams. Really the last chance this year for the Beavers to get a feel-good win. I know they've looked bad all season, but they're lining up against a defense that would be power rated in the 60s level at the FCS leagues. Similar to Lafayette College, who they scored 42 points on. I just don't see Sam Houston being able to keep up, laying the 20 with Oregon State.
Laying the 20 with Oregon State. Oh, what a statement. Good luck there in Corvallis. I'm going to roll with BC catching the points at home. Red bandana game should get their best effort. Tough spot here for SMU off the huge overtime win. We saw what they did when they traveled after the Clemson upset. They went away, came out super flat. I'm not sure how healthy Jennings really is right now. And this SMU team, for the most part, hasn't really been that impressive on a week to week basis. I mean, even last week, you could argue that was more about Miami being undisciplined. And I think BC is now undervalued in the market because they're finally getting a bit healthier. They were one of the most injury ravaged teams in the country pretty much through the first half of the season. Past 2 weeks, you saw them compete with Louisville, one possession game in the fourth quarter. Same against Notre Dame. I think you get their best effort here. I like BC and the points. All right, before we build our money line parlay, I'll throw it to myself for a quick read on DraftKings. The Big Bets on Campus podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And in partnership with DraftKings, BBOC listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. That's code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings for 3 months of NBA League Pass and $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. All right, it's time to build our money line parlay. Collin, I'll kick it to you to start things off.
I know it's one that you don't love. We talked about it on Thursday. Nebraska money line going on the road against UCLA. And look, I think all the focus on this Nebraska offense has been the new quarterback, TJ Lateef, but really it's all about Emmett Johnson running the ball. He is going to have a solid day here. UCLA is bottom 5 in rushing success rate, line yards, and stuff rate on the defense. They cannot stop anybody, and Emmett Johnson should have a huge day. Now, let's talk about that UCLA offense. Why did they get so hot and start pulling off upsets? It was because of explosive plays. It wasn't because of methodicals. Well, Nico's not really running the ball right now very well. He hasn't had a TD since week 6. He hasn't even had an explosive run since week 2. And UCLA started their string of upsets basically by a running back committee, a number of names that were racking up 100-yard games. But Jalen Berger and Javian Thomas, they haven't had a single explosive run over the past 2 games against Maryland and Indiana. I'll give you a pass against Indiana, but you can't create an explosive run against Maryland. I think this UCLA trip was fun. I hope Jerry Neuheisel gets a big job coming up, but Nebraska goes on the road here and gets the win.
Completely disagree. A horrible spot too. I mean, UCLA off a bye. Nebraska's their season's over. No more college football playoff. Traveling out west, teams have been horrible. I mean, the home field in this spot's worth like 4.5 points with the travel.
In the
And
Rose Bowl,
you
it's
don't
empty.
think, yeah, look back. I mean, even all of these stadiums, even when they're empty, these teams that travel out west, I mean, over two time zones have been horrific. They only cover by like 3.5 points per game on average. But like, you don't think that UCLA knows that Nebraska can run it? They're just going to load the box here, and then you're going to be stuck with the backup trying to throw. And based on what I saw last week, good luck. Calabrese, where you going?
I'm going to go with Jacksonville State in a pure coin flip game, and it's really just a fate of UTEP. Locklear is only effective at quarterback when he can run. He's dreadful pushing the ball downfield. Throws that are over 10 yards in terms of air yards, 9 for 26 on the season, one touchdown, three interceptions. And Jacksonville State has done a nice job bottling up these mobile quarterbacks. You'll get Hunter Watson from Sam Houston, Ethan Vasco from Liberty, and both of the Central Florida quarterbacks in the opener. They forced them to win from the pocket, and it's why they were competitive in all of those games. And UTEP's main defensive deficiency this season, you look at a lot of their stats, they're actually surprisingly good, and they're in the the top third of Conference USA. But when it comes to rushing explosives, they're outside of the top 100. And who is the best player in the entire country to be a one-man offense? It's Cam Cook. He is a walking explosive. He is first in rushing yards, first in broken tackles this year, and first in yards after contact. So him busting 3 or 4 long runs in this game, I think, is on the menu. And then finally, in terms of when things go bad for UTEP this year, they're 1-3 in Conference USA play. All three of those losses have come by double digits. So I'll go with the Gamecocks. I know it's a one-man offense, a one-man band, but he can't do, much better than Cam Cook this season.
I mean, Cam Cook better have those stats. They played no one. I disagree with you. I disagree with you here with UTEP. I mean, UTEP's defense, adjusted EPA per play, if you adjust for opponent, of all Group of Five schools, they're number two behind San Diego State. I think they're legit. This Jacksonville State team, who are their wins against? Like they beat Sam Houston on a 52-yard walk-off field goal. They beat Middle Tennessee by 3. I mean, an FCS school. I mean, it's bad. I like UTEP. Shocker, Mike. Last week was the first one I liked. I got to give you credit, Duke. They did hit. They came through and got to the window. Maybe you're going to get hot now. Duck, here's one I do like. What do you got?
Yeah, Temple, this is really their last good shot to secure bowl eligibility. Second time facing the option type of scheme this year. They took Navy to the wire. Army with a tougher situation getting up for this one after going out to Colorado Springs and defeating Air Force in the COC series. Could be a bit of a downer here. Army 95th in pass EPA defensively, 77th in explosivity given up against the pass. Evan Simon for Temple, 21-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I think Temple's fully locked in here, max effort to get to bowl eligibility. I think Temple wins this game on the field.
Yeah, they should. Keeler should have them ready after last week. One of the things that happened in that ECU game is they had 3 starters in the secondary go down right off the bat. One didn't play, 2 got hurt. That's not great against ECU. If they're not fully healthy in the secondary, won't be as big of an issue against that Army offense. And yes, they've already seen a service academy earlier this year. And again, they should have won if not for a blown call late. So I think you get their best effort here. Do like Temple as well. I'm just going to go with Kentucky on the spot. I mean, does Florida show up here after last week's heartbreaking loss? What are they really playing for? They have a couple rivalry games to close out the season that I'm sure you might get their best effort, but you don't get the new coach bump. Kentucky already saw some of the new things that they tried last week. And one of the things that Florida did very well last week was get Trey Wilson more involved. I think he had 9 catches over 100 yards. Well, he's not playing. Dallas Wilson, he's not playing. They're decimated at wide receiver. Kentucky can stop the run. Their offense playing a bit better of late, playing with confidence. I trust Kentucky will at least show up here for a rival at home. So let's go with the Cats. So we got Jacksonville State, Nebraska, Temple, and Kentucky, 27-1 at DraftKings. Good luck if you're following along. By the way, we've been rolling out some awesome updates, the award-winning Action app, and the best way to get the most from the app is by being an Action Pro subscriber. Pro subs can get real-time alerts whenever we post picks. Sign up today with promo code BBOC20 for $20 off an annual subscription. Again, that's promo code BBOC20. All right, let's get to the marquee matchup of the day between undefeated BYU and Texas Tech. I believe has Texas Tech taking some money right now? I think I just got a
Mm-hmm.
notification. Texas Tech taking some money. I think up to what, 12 and a half?
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech 12.5 point home favorite here against BYU, who does come in undefeated although a bit fortunate in a couple of their wins. Colin, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I wrote up 52.5 early in the week. We're already down to 50 on the under. This is a Bear Bachmeyer, LJ Martin zone read concept offense that likes to run a lot for BYU. That's going to be a problem if LJ Martin is hurt. Left the game last week with the upper body injury. We'll see what his status is here. Going to play because if you can't run zone read without your running back, then it's essentially the quarterback draw with Bear Bachmeyer, which is not going to work against this Texas Tech defense. You don't want BYU to get into passing downs here whatsoever. Texas Tech is with David Bailey and Romello Height, 95 pressures. Not to mention, I think this is the number one overall graded coverage unit per PFF. BYU in passing downs is just straight death. Just might as well punt the ball on third and long. Te so and I think Texas Tech, they're not that great on the offensive line either when they have the ball. I mean, their offensive line is 124th in line yards, which tells me their trenches cannot move a pile whatsoever, and it's up to their running backs to create all of their runs. So what if Texas Tech gets into passing downs? That's not good either because BYU's defense, their nickel defense, specializes in shutting down the pass. They're top 25 in creating a contested catch. Jay Hill's done an amazing job there since he came. I don't see an avenue for either offense to sustain methodical, quality drives and get into scoring position. I like the under.
Calvary, you on the same page?
Yeah, I like it all the way down to 49 here. We didn't even talk about the wind. There's going to be sustained winds in the 18 to 20 mile per hour range. Gusts are going to hit 30 miles per hour. So that's going to ground both passing attacks. And everything that Colin said is true. It's going to be a ground war, but BYU's run D is 18th in stuff rate. Texas Tech's offensive line is going to struggle to be able to get any push there. And I think we also need to give the flowers to Shieldwood. This glow up for this Red Raider defense has been the stuff of legend. They went from a sieve last year to absolutely elite across the board. They're top 10 in rush success rate defense, coverage, pass rush, and tackling. So when you put that all into a blender and you add in the fact that if BYU has any success, they're a snail. They're 111th in seconds per play, third in the Big 12 in time of possession per game. They'll be happy to shrink this game down. So like I said, anything above 49, I think is an underplay here.
Yeah, and they paid up. Some of the best money spent in the offseason was Texas Tech and that defensive line because they are like top five nationally good. You don't usually see that in the Big 12. Duck, you also agree, but you're taking a derivative approach.
Yeah, I'm looking at BYU's team total under, and the guys have covered it pretty well. But you look at Texas Tech, you're not running the ball against these guys. 2.4 yards per carry on the ground this season, 75 yards per game given up on the ground. So then you force BYU into passing situations, and this secondary is legitimately nasty. You're not going to throw the ball. Third medium or worse is going to be trouble for BYU. I think the wind will inhibit Texas Tech's passing game a little bit to the point where this game's not going to get out of hand, so that way you don't get a cheap late second half score from BYU, similarly to how Kansas State scored a couple cheap ones late last week. But I think this game's relatively low scoring. It'll be competitive for a while. BYU's well coached. But I do not think that they'll surpass their team total. 18.5, give me the under.
Yeah, not much to add here. I agree with the market moves and everything you guys said. So well done, gentlemen. All right, looking forward to that one. But let's move on to the D block. Bring in Duck to talk some FCS. Duck, I do have two questions before we get to your three picks. One, is Harvard legit or is it just who they play?
I think they're legitimately talented. Their quarterback is really solid. They have three explosive receivers. Defense is nasty. They'll give some teams problems in the FCS playoffs. I don't think they'll make a real deep run, but if they get a top eight seed, they'll have a more favorable draw. I thought they were playing for that last night, so I'm surprised they took their foot off the gas up 31 nothing. But very talented team, much, much more talented than we've seen in the Ivy League for some time.
And then are we playing Citadel catching over 50 against Ole Miss today?
I mean, I would, yeah. I mean, we saw Ole Miss and their approach to the Wazoo game, 33.5 point favorites, and then Lane Kiffin comes out and says, yeah, we didn't even prep for those guys. And so I can't imagine they're spending a lot of time prepping for Citadel, who's gone back to option principles after going away from it for some time.
Yeah.
And look who Ole Miss has on deck. Revenge spot. Florida really ruined their season last year, and now they get Florida coming up. I'm sure that's what the prep was this week. Lane Kiffin would have no issue winning this game. 49-7, 52 to 10. So yeah, 51.5. I'm going to look at the Citadel.
All right, let's get to your picks here. We're going to start with an under between Hampton and Maine. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be cold and not great weather up there in Maine. Hampton's run heavy 63% of the time. They cannot throw the ball whatsoever. Maine's riding a 4 game win streak, allowed just 15 points per game during that stretch. A really underrated Maine defense that's allowing just 313 total yards per game and 4 yards per play this season. Hampton's going to really struggle to move it here against the Black Bears. Main quarterback Carter Peavy, he's efficient, but they're not exceedingly explosive offensively. Manages the games well without a lot of wow factor. Maine uses 2 running backs and some QB in the run game. Should be a ton of run in the second half. I think this one finishes in the low 40s.
I like that look. I feel like Carter, where was Carter PV at before? I've bet on him before at an FCS game.
Mercer.
That's right. All right, now we're gonna go to a pretty big favorite here. You like Jackson State?
Yeah, and so the top level of the SWAC to the bottom level of the SWAC, it's like those old MAC conferences where it's like the best team in the MAC would beat the worst team in the MAC by 6 touchdowns, not 4. That's kind of what we're getting here. Mississippi Valley's only win this season is against one of your favorite teams, Lincoln University, which is the fake college with no home stadium. Outside of that, they've given up 42 points per game. Jacoby and Morgan is going to shred this Mississippi Valley secondary on offense. They'll find numerous explosive plays. Jackson State rebounded nicely after an earlier season loss against Grambling. Still the best team in the SWAC. Should completely dominate the war in the trenches here. This game will not be close. Jackson State could put up a 50 spot here, so they're going to win this game big.
Poor Delta Devils. They just any sport can't figure it out. Maybe I don't know if there's a sport that they're good at, but it's certainly not football or basketball. And you got a bonus pick in a pretty big game here.
Yeah, it's on ESPNU, so tune in. It'll be a really good game there in V-Town in the Dakota Dome. South Dakota State was embarrassed, humbled. They lost as 32-point home favorites against Indiana State last week. It was honestly shockingly bad. So how do they get off the mat here against their rival? Well, the season now hangs in the balance for a team that was rated number 2 or number 3 in FCS all season. Another loss will put them in jeopardy of missing the FCS playoffs. Huge rivalry against the Yotes that South Dakota State has dominated for many years. USD way down in the trenches this year. We talked about this in the preseason. The trench play on the offensive and defensive line is way down compared to priors. The offensive weapons are lacking. USD is really run heavy. They got a bell cow back and they run some quarterback. Not going to work against SDSU's defensive front. This is going to be a low scoring game, competitive game. I think South Dakota State will win this one and pull away in the fourth. Anything under a touchdown, we're good here.
All right, good stuff, Duck. I was shocked to see that result last week, that South Dakota State result. But good stuff here. I hope that you don't hear
Yeah, me
your
neither.
name called by Scott Van Pelt on Bad Beats
Again.
for a third time.
Again.
A third time this season. All right. Speaking of Citadel. All right, before we get out of here, one final best bet at the horn. Colin, where are you going?
Let's go Florida State Clemson on the over because these defenses are terrible. Clemson's defense is outside the top 50 in defensive rushing success rate, 75th in quality drives allowed. So what that means is Florida State's going to be able to get into scoring position here. But then again, Florida State's absolutely been torched in their secondary. Their coverage, their pass rush ranks are both outside the top 75. Plus, Florida State is dead last in pass breakups. I mean, they allow opponents 3.9 points every time their possessions cross the 40-yard line. I don't see any resistance out of these two defenses, which is crazy. Just the perception of what I had of Clemson's defense at the beginning of the year versus right now, where this is a number that I think is a little short. So Clemson FSU over.
I mean, has Dabo lost that defense?
Yeah.
Judging based on, I mean, he was going off on them on the sideline, and they were just like, essentially, that was not a great look. So we'll see if they can bounce back. But I agree, we should see plenty of points in that one. Calabrese, what are you looking at?
Taking the late night points with the Bows, Hawaii catching 6.5, 7 out there in the market. Donegal is questionable. He may not go for San Diego State. And if he can't go, I mean, they're essentially one-dimensional because they're going to turn the offense over to Bert Emanuel Jr. If you remember him from Central Michigan, great runner, not much of a passer. And the Hawaii defense, while they were supposed to be feisty against the run, that has not materialized here in 2025. But if they're facing a one-dimensional offense, they at least can stack the box and just dare Emmanuel Jr. to beat them over the top. On the other side of this thing, San Diego State has kind of been a story that's flown under the radar from the G5. They've stacking wins. Their defense has been incredible. with so many performances keeping teams either in single digits or shutting them out. But when you look at the teams they played, Northern Illinois, Colorado State, Nevada, all 113th or worse in Pro Football Focus offensive rating, and Fresno was on a backup quarterback. So how much of that is real? How much of it is smoke and mirrors? What I do know on the other side is Alejado has been on an absolute heater, 385 yards per game and 3 TDs per game in his last four. And when he has his full receiving core, this offense absolutely hums. It's a pick your poison situation between Harris and Ashlock. 13 receptions, 238, 2 TDs combined in the last game. Senecal's a red zone threat as well. I think Hawaii is going to be able to hang around and make this a 60-minute game. So I'll go ahead and take the points with Timmy Chang.
All right, like that on the island. I think Chang's been pretty good catching points on the island as well. Duck, what do you got?
Wake UVA under 48.5. Neither offense operates with a ton of pace. UVA 40th, Wake 67th. Wake 11th in defensive success rate, 17th in havoc, 37th in finishing drives defensively. UVA's red zone performance since their big win over Louisville, just 5 of 11 trips have resulted in touchdowns. UVA's defense legitimately playing good football over the last 3 weeks. The Wake offense is a mess, struggling to get anything going the last couple of weeks. Wake's red zone performance, worst in the country. 29 red zone trips, 10 red zone touchdowns this season. A ton of field goals, a ton of empty possessions. Could be a field goal fest here. I like the under.
I'm going to stay in that game. Collin, the run and Duck, the run comes to an end tonight. Give me the points. I'm sure Virginia will win by one somehow, but I'll take the points with Wake. Best unit on the field will be the Wake defense. This Virginia offense has been solved. They have 8 wins. They should have 5. This should be a matchup of 2, 5, and 3 teams that no one would care about, but we do care about it because Virginia keeps pulling off 1-point wins, overtime wins by an inch, walk-off safeties. It's getting a little crazy. Wake Forest will show up here. I like the points in what I also think will be a lower scoring game. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks to Duck, Mike, and Collin for joining me. Thanks to our producer, Giff, on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in, and thanks to DraftKings. We will be back with our recap episode tomorrow. Make sure you call the voicemail 959 Bad Beat. Group of 5 guys back on Wednesday to preview the Week 12 slate. Colin and I will be back on Thursday to preview the full slate. We'll be back same time next week, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Good luck on all of your wagers today and enjoy the football. We'll catch y'all later. Cheers.